Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. I'm Don,
And I'm Jonah.
and today we are taking a look at the 2026 Netflix film called Remarkably Bright Creatures. You see the background behind Jonathan there. Um, it stars Sally Field, Alfred Molina. The young man's name is Luke. Is it Luke?
Um, I don't know his last. He's Bill Pullman's son. So
Yeah, Pullman. Yeah, Lucas. I think maybe Lucas Pullman. Anyway, um, this is an adorable film. It's a
yeah,
it's a bit of a tearjerker.
yeah.
Bring your tissues. You're probably going to cry. Um, but it's all right. It was good enough that I watched it by myself, and then I tried to get my wife to sit and watch it with me. I was willing to watch it a second time.
Yeah.
Um, Even knowing like we're going to try to avoid the spoilers because there is kind of a twist surprise thing that happens. So we'll try to avoid that since it is a relatively new film.
Yeah.
But
We're
even
also
given
we're
like
also going to remind people that this is a movie podcast about movies.
yeah, and sometimes we do have to talk about some things.
So
Um,
if you really want to watch this movie, stop, pause, go to
yeah,
Netflix, watch the
pause
movie.
here. Exactly, exactly. So, the basic premise is it's an older lady played by Sally Field who is the cleaner in it's like a small town aquarium.
Aquarium. Yeah.
Yeah, and she is well, I don't think she realizes that the octopus is friends with her. Uh, she just takes care of him.
Yeah.
Um, but and then this young man that comes along and he's looking for his birth father. And his van breaks down and he's stuck there and he ends up getting a job kind of replacing her as she's injured. And I'm giving a lot of the story away here, but when I just said we weren't going to do that, but
It's
nonetheless.
it's going to be. I'll try to save the big reveal, but to be honest, again, you're watching a movie podcast where look,
Yeah. So understand that, like, for instance, Alfred Molina does not appear in the film.
yeah,
He is the voiceover for the octopus, Marcellus.
yes,
So you're getting, I think mostly you're getting the story told from the perspective of the octopus.
yeah, yeah. It's based on a book by the same
Yeah.
name.
Yes.
Um, I always it can be rough sometimes when a perspective of a film is taken outside of the human characters. I mean, there are times where this goes really sideways, but
Hmm.
I thought this was really well done. It was kind of this idea of we have a tendency to think life, like the rest of creation, doesn't have any role in existence. And it's just nice once in a while to be like, no, animals kind of have perspectives too.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And particularly considering that there's been a lot of research, particularly in the last 10 or 15 years, about how smart octopuses actually are.
yes, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you can see maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but you can kind of understand it. So
Well,
we'll start.
I don't know. I don't know how you felt, but I really like to think about once in a while. Sometimes it can get you depressed. I'll recognize that. But to think about how animals actually feel being in captivity, like,
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Well,
reflect on that.
that'll, you don't want to, I don't think you want to take that with you when you go visit the zoo.
No.
It's going to be, you're just going to be depressed.
Yes. Yep. Um, but okay,
But
so
then
yeah.
again, Jonathan, you have to admit that that also could be a lot of us putting our emotions on the animals
Oh,
when they don't
absolutely.
have it.
Absolutely. And again, this I liked how they did this because you see you do feel bad for Marcellus because he obviously wants to be back into the ocean,
Right,
but you also get the backstory of his life was saved by the people that rescued him. Like he
right,
would have died had he not been rescued. So you get the reality of these institutions, although sometimes sad, also save animals' lives. So
Right. And certainly, I mean, we've been to zoos and aquariums, and a big angle for most of them is the conservation angle, So,
yeah,
um,
especially the last 10 years or so, they've really
absolutely,
put it.
absolutely. So, where do you want to start with some themes on this? I think this one, this film is really about grief.
Yeah,
I mean, the very
and
bottom
processing.
line.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
And to me, this to me some of the more powerful parts of this film are not necessarily the headline elements of it. It's the reality that um, God, Tova and what's Pullman's name in the movie?
I'm looking at I'm
Cameron
looking
and
at the
Tova.
previous week. Yeah,
Yeah,
Cameron.
Cameron. Yeah, Cameron and Tova, and to honestly, a lot of the side characters too grieve in silos, and that's a huge part of the problem of their lives in terms of not being able to process their grief. They
Yeah,
grieve alone,
yeah,
and they believe they have to grieve alone, and they find healing throughout the movie. All of these different characters find healing when they can grieve together and when they can grieve as part of a community. And
yeah,
again, to me, that is a perfect little lesson for human beings, but especially people that want to follow Christ, is the whole idea of building a community of healing and renewal. I mean, that's
yeah.
the point of the Christian community.
Well, yeah, this is the church, right? The church is your community. It's interesting to see. I think we've talked a little about this in other films, but it's interesting to see how people do this to themselves. I don't want to bring my grief to the community. I don't want to share how I feel about my loss,
Yeah,
because it's going to bring other people down. But wait, you're shutting off the opportunity for other people to support you and lift you up and love you through that.
yeah,
Um, which is, yeah, it's a huge angle of this film, of the story that's told here.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Particularly grief from
I'm sorry.
tragedy and
Yeah,
loss,
yeah,
in
and
particular, and on a multitude of characters, even down to Cole Meany plays the storekeeper,
yeah,
and like we don't get a big backstory on him
no.
other than he used to be a roadie, I think,
You
or
used to follow the
something.
Grateful Dead. Yeah,
Yeah, he used to follow the Grateful Dead around, and like, so he has this loss where Tova dumps wine on his Grateful Dead shirt.
yeah,
And that like he doesn't say anything about it.
yeah,
Like Cameron has to tell Tova that that was a loss for him,
yeah.
you know.
Well,
Um,
I love the it's a minor story in the book, I'm guessing, but especially in the movie, but a really powerful one about Tova is part of this group that you see at the very beginning. She's part of what they call themselves the Knitwits. They knit together,
mhm,
and throughout the movie, she's like exhausted by this group. She's bothered by this group. You almost kind of go like, why are you a part of this group? Like you
right.
completely seem to think they're idiots and crazy. And toward the end, one of the members of that group goes, I want to be here for you. I want to help you grieve. I want you to help you live life, and I would like you to help me grieve as I'm losing my husband and I'm having to move away to be closer to my daughter. Like it's this powerful scene of like a reminder that we oftentimes don't recognize that people are in our lives and we are called to use them and to be used by them as resources, and she had this beautiful resource of these three other women who wanted to support and love her, and through most of the movie she kind of just shuts the door on them.
Yeah, she already had her community, and
Yeah,
she was shutting them out. Yeah. Even in her own, even processing her own stuff of, maybe selling her house and moving away,
yeah,
moving into a retirement community, I guess it
yeah,
was, or something like
yeah,
that. Um, y- you know, she kept that to herself. It was like a big secret,
yeah,
and then it came out and everybody's surprised. What, you're moving? We didn't know you were. Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing that you need people around you to process, to help you process. Um, so yeah, I mean, the whole idea of grief and loss and dealing with that is huge. Just a huge angle of this film. But I think there's more to it. I think you put here purpose. I think purpose is a big. It's also a big thing here because Cameron comes into this film. He feels like his purpose is to find his father.
Yeah.
That's his
And
one.
and get
It's like his
and
life
get money
goal.
to get money to revive his band.
Right. And right. And revive his band. What was his band called? Moth Sausage?
Yeah. Well, and again, I thought it was really interesting because I have a tendency to do this. I think most Americans at least do, which is we have a tendency to define our purpose as one thing.
Right.
Like my purpose is to be a pastor, or my purpose is to write a book, or my
Hmm.
purpose is to be an athlete. And we don't recognize purpose isn't that. It's meeting the moment. And so your purpose changes depending on the moment and the people you're around. Your purpose changes.
Yeah.
And what's nice about this movie is you get to see that. Um, Tova's purpose changes throughout the film. She's there to kind of be the guardian of this aquarium. At the end of the movie, she's there to support this person that has just come into her life, and that's her purpose. And it changed. Her purpose wasn't to support a human being at the beginning of the movie. She was kind of drawing away from all human beings, right? She was going to move away. But at the end of the movie, her purpose is radically different than at the beginning of the movie. And I think that's an important lesson: is our purpose isn't one thing that's stagnant. It changes throughout our lives.
I wonder if this film couldn't stir a conversation about your life purpose being more general than specific.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of folks, well, okay, I'll use my older son as an example. Like he is focused on the NFL.
Yeah.
He trains hard, he plays football, he wants to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he feels like that's his only and I would think, I mean, I love that for him. I would
Yeah.
love that to happen for him.
Absolutely.
It's my retirement plan if it does. But
At
that's a
least you get really cool tickets for the rest of your life.
that's a joke, friends. That's a joke. Um, but um, but wouldn't it be interesting to have a broader purpose than something that's very narrow about what you want to accomplish in the world, but maybe what you can bring to the world or bring to your community?
Well, again,
You know,
I'd actually say that this would be a really interesting movie to show both of our churches. Most churches in general tend to gravitate toward kind of the senior reality of life, kind of toward retirement or going toward retirement.
hmm.
This is a really good movie to have a conversation about. You're retired, your spouse may be gone, your life isn't over.
Right.
You still have a purpose, you still
Sure.
have a function, you still have a role in this community. And that was a really impactful part of this movie for me, is Tova starting to realize just because her husband died and her son died doesn't mean her life is over or her purpose is over.
Right. And she certainly at the outset of the film um feels, I think she doesn't say it, but to her, like, the only thing she has left is being the nighttime cleaner for this aquarium, this little town aquarium.
Yeah.
um and while she's got all of these other people in her life that she could be an asset to, or she could have community with, and she just keeps those doors closed and focuses on what's right in front of her. Which, let's be honest, sometimes what is right in front of you isn't always the best thing. Maybe it's a train, you know,
Well,
it's
no,
going
I
to
mean,
run your butt over.
for her, she is focused on her grief. She's
Yeah.
focused. That's her
Indeed.
focus.
Yeah.
And that's not. look, there's nothing wrong with grieving. Grieving is part of life.
No,
Grieving
normal,
is necessary. But I
100%.
don't think for most people, a prolonged focus on your grief's a good thing. I
Okay.
think to find healing, you have to turn your grief into something else, whether that's learning a lesson from it. And like, I think about the poor folks who went through the tragedies like gun violence where they lost their children and then they make their lives about trying to address that issue, something like that. Like, you know, making your grief into something that matters in a deeper way.
Yeah.
For Tova, it was recognizing the community that was all around her and the purpose that all of these people. By the end of the movie, you realize like 10 people rely on Tova, and she never understood they're relying on her.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you put it because I was thinking about, what's in our current headlines.
Yeah,
And this is the Carmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf case.
yeah,
And for the longest time we heard nothing from Metcalf's parents, from
yeah,
Austin Metcalf's parents. Um, and then today, so there was a verdict 2 days, two whatever it was, 2 days ago, I think. And it did not go in Carmelo Anthony's way. He's going to spend, well, he's sentenced to 35 years in prison.
yeah,
I mean, the bottom line, two kids have basically lost their lives,
yeah,
right? It's not good either way. But I thought, at least for the longest time, that the Metcalfs were not saying anything out of grief, out of processing their loss, out of, this. And then today I saw a video from the father, and he just went on an absolute rant against the Anthony family. I was like, dude, no, that's not it, man. That's not it. I
yeah,
mean, I get it. You're angry. I'd be angry too. I'd have been angry for a long while.
yeah,
But at this point, like, this is not angry time anymore. you
yeah,
know like now it's time to process your grief and put your energy into your family and uh, and maybe he just needs some people around him to say that. I don't know.
yeah,
And I don't, again, this is kind of a political football. I don't want to beat it around too much because that's not what we do.
yeah,
But I think it is a very current cultural example of how you can, you used a great word, silo, how you can
yeah,
silo yourself. And my goodness, do we do that in this culture right now? People
yeah,
just silence. I don't want to hear anybody else's point of view. I mean, again, you and I have said this 100 times. How many podcasts have we done now? 100 and whatever. How many times have we said like that's part of what we're trying to do?
yeah,
For those of you who might be new, um, Jonathan and I don't agree. We don't agree on a, a massive amount of political stuff. We're not in the same place. We're
yeah,
just not. Um, and that's not a barrier.
mm,
And it shouldn't be a barrier. It shouldn't be the kind of thing that divides people. Man, if there's one thing I cannot stand, and folks in one of my churches hear this loud and clear right now. If there's one thing I cannot stand, it's division.
yeah,
It is dividing over silly stuff.
yeah,
It's, creating us and them camps. That ain't the church.
yeah.
And
And
it
you can,
shouldn't be Christian people,
yeah.
you know?
Well, and I don't know. I think a powerful conversation in this movie is kind of the assumption that Tova's husband makes when he's dying that okay, she didn't have the classic people to take care of her, right? She does not have a son. She does not
Hmm.
have a daughter. So the natural place for her is to go to a retirement community.
Right.
You know, and I see, you probably see it too. I feel like I see it so many times. It's like, okay, I'm older. I must now move into a retirement community. And
Hmm.
that is such a thing I struggle with our society is sometimes I get that makes sense. And I'm not saying it's always wrong. I'm not saying that. But how many times have we seen, I know I've seen it, where somebody moves like 20 minutes away or more and then complains about they don't have all the connections they have had for their entire lives. And I think to myself, it probably would have been better for you to find a place down the street or to ask some people to move in with you or, to rely on people more than to just move away, you know?
Yeah.
And again, it's this idea we've lost this idea of um, you have all of us have stages in life. And one of the stages of life is I'm older and I need more help.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and that's not wrong. That's part of life. And so, you know, we need to be better about recognizing, okay, how do we step up and support this older person when they need more help?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I think that there might be a culture-wide institution that maybe could stand in that gap somewhere along the.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's. Oh, what else? I mean, this I thought this was there were a lot more themes and ideas in this film than I expected, to be
Yeah, I mean,
honest.
I even liked the relationship between Cameron and Avery. This idea that they're roughly the same age, they're in their late 20s, and yet Avery, because she got pregnant pretty early in life,
Hmm.
is a single mom, and Cameron is somebody who's kind of been trying to escape the damage of his childhood and hasn't grown up. And their romantic connection at first scares Cameron once he finds out that she's a single mom because he's like, "Oh my God, how do I step into all that?" And yet what was kind of beautiful was this recognition that she's going to help him and he's going to help her. Like, again, this idea of that we actually need each other.
There's I think it's, is it in Psalms or Proverbs that iron sharpens iron? I
Yeah,
think, yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I know we use it in the church specifically as, Christians learning from each other,
yeah,
but I think there's a broader application there,
yeah.
you know. Um, yeah, the other thing which I think really resonated, and I'm looking at your themes here, the thing that really resonated with me is chosen family, the
Yeah.
idea of chosen family. Because let's be honest, the idea of a traditional family in our current culture is, well, it's not gone. It's not, it's not, I wouldn't even call it antiquated or out of date or anything like that. I think it's an ideal. But reality is that most families are not that, or
Well, and
maybe not most, but an awful lot
yeah,
of families are
yeah.
not.
Well, and,
My own included,
yeah,
yours
yeah,
included.
absolutely.
We've adopted kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are chosen family.
Well, and I really think about I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard it several months ago in a documentary, and it really hit home. The thing we usually talk about when we talk about a traditional family, the kind of nuclear family, is not a traditional family. It's a construction of the 20th century. You know, really traditional families were grandma, uncle, aunt, you know, mom and dad, cousins, like, everybody living in one house. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of like New York City in the early 19 or early 1800s or 1900s, like where like there's a three-story house and it's full with the same family and everybody lives. That's a natural family, in a
More
traditional
like
family.
more like the Amish lifestyle.
Yeah.
You get multiple families under one roof. Yeah.
And what's interesting is I think in this moment where we're dealing with a lot of what are called oftentimes people refer to and rightfully so broken families and those kind of things, we have an opportunity to go back to a model of a community-based family that you're that your cousins and aunts and uncles and the strange guy down the block that watches you when you're when your mom and dad are at work, like those kind of things are something we could form. We could choose to kind of embrace those ideas, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, you know, I just films like this that have that in it, films like Despicable Me,
Yeah,
if you've ever seen, you know, where Gru takes in these girls, he's the bad guy, he takes in these girls just to try to accomplish some evil plot
yeah.
and ends up like genuinely adopting them and you know
Falling
they
in love.
become his
Yeah,
like those are the kind of films that hit a guy like me
yeah,
and I'm sure probably hit you
yeah.
you know right square in the heart you
Yeah,
know
well, it's this idea. I don't know. To me, it's this powerful idea of family is a lot of it is just you're choosing to interact deeply with other people.
it's what you make it right
Yeah,
yeah and that was I mean granted there are a lot of films that do this.
yeah,
This is not the only one.
no,
But you know, I think it's a real powerful theme that maybe not enough people hear. You know what I mean? That family is what you make it.
yeah,
It's not just it's not just you know, the people that you're related to by blood,
yeah.
you know.
Well,
Um
this idea of at one time um, the octopus Marcellus says something about humans have millions of words, but they choose not to use them. Or something like that. And it just reminded me that oftentimes we avoid conversations that could really help build and strengthen our relationships because we're worried about how those conversations might go. And I
yeah.
like to tell my kids a lot that think about the worst case scenario that you're worried about this conversation. Think about the worst case scenario and realize it's very unlikely that worst case scenario actually happens.
Right.
You know,
Right. Yes, the worst case scenario is dad's going to take you out behind the woodshed and put you out of your misery. That's not going to happen. So
yeah,
put that one out.
yeah.
All right. What else? What else do we got here? Well, you know, it's a cute film.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it was it's look, it's not the best film I've seen this year.
Oh,
But it's also a long way from the worst. So
no.
um uh,
Yeah, I mean, again, I think um, to me, it's a very good reminder, and we need to be reminded of it, that the worst thing you can do when you're going through grief or tragedy is isolate yourself.
yeah. Yeah, and I would maybe even take that a step further and say the worst thing you can do, period, is isolate yourself.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I tend to, you know, think like, what if more people could just have the conversation
Well, and
that like you and I can have, you
yeah.
know?
Well, again, I would. I'm going to try to say this without giving away the twist because I don't want. I want to try to respect.
Good
But
luck.
in this movie, there, this whole movie would have been the people in this movie would be tremendously more happy if one person in a very difficult situation would have chosen to have a conversation with the parents of another person that had gone through a difficult situation. Had that
Early on.
conversation
In fact,
happened,
this could have been a 22-minute sitcom if there were more conversation.
yes, yeah. I mean, well, but honestly, think about the two people's lives would have been radically, well, actually more, four people's lives would have been radically healed had someone been willing to have a really difficult conversation with parents of another person.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. It's a film worth watching. Look, if I'm trying to convince my wife to see, my wife, we had this conversation offline. For those of you who aren't aware, Bonnie's not really a movie person. So really the only films that she's interested in have two particular words in the title, Harry and Potter.
How
Um,
have we not done a Harry Potter movie yet?
uh, Trust me, I've seen them all. We own them all. It's not a stretch in my house. Uh, anyway, look, Remarkably Bright Creatures. It's a film worth seeing.
Yeah,
We'll
it
leave
is.
it at that. And so for next week, now, John, you had already suggested to me via text something that you would like to see this week. You want to stick with that?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
This movie is having a moment. I think it's the first movie in over a decade to increase its ticket sales the second week of its release. And it's becoming quite a kind of phenomena. It's getting
Mhm.
a lot of buzz online in kind of especially younger circles, so people
Yes.
younger than us. It's called Obsession. Um, it's a comedy slash horror. I think more on the
Right.
horror than the comedy side, but
More on the
um,
body horror. I've been reading up about it. More on the body horror than comedy, but definitely, yes, a dark horror or
yeah,
dark comedy horror, if you will.
yeah,
Interesting to note, this film and another film that's currently in theaters called Backrooms are productions from YouTube creators.
yeah.
The fellow who directed this film, his name is Curry Barker. I had to look it up because I went, is he related to Clive Barker, the horror guy? He's not. No relation.
Yeah.
Interesting, that's all. Um, but I mean, look, these films are creating enough buzz that my 16-year-old son, who doesn't go to the movies unless I drag him there, said, I think I'm going to go to the movies with my friends. We want to see Backrooms.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, so, I mean, this Obsession, Backrooms are creating a lot of buzz. The other one that's getting a lot of buzz right now hasn't come out yet, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, comes out tomorrow.
yeah.
Today is Thursday as we record, so tomorrow, Friday.
Oh, you're
Is
seeing.
Yeah, when this premieres, you will be able to go to the theaters and see Steven Spielberg's film Disclosure Day. I'm already getting text messages from people from my congregation that want to know what we are going to say about that film. So I think that's got to be next week's film.
Yep, yep,
For this week, we will watch Obsession, and then for next week, we will talk about Disclosure Day, if
yep.
that's cool with you.
Absolutely.
All right, good. All right, friends. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching. If you're getting anything out of all of these discussions, or you just like laughing at two of us making fools of ourselves, we'll take that too. Uh,
Please like her and share.
like and share, exactly. And until next Friday, keep on finding God in the dark, friends. Take care and God bless. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for watching the Finding God in the Dark podcast, friends. If you've made it here all the way to the end of the video, then obviously you find something that we're doing to be educational or informative, something valuable in this podcast. So we want to invite you to go ahead and share this with your friends, hit the like button, follow us for more of this. We publish every week at 10 a.m. on Friday mornings on YouTube. Shortly thereafter, you'll find us somewhere on Facebook. Until next Friday, keep on finding God in the dark. Thanks for watching. Bye now.